The Bible teaches that in the beginning, God created the world in 6 days. On the first day of creation, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This light was not from the sun, moon, or stars because God did not create those until the 4th day. This was a special, divine light that filled the darkness. The Bible tells us that God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness, calling the light day, and the darkness night. This marked the first day of creation. The creation of light on the first day is significant because it represents the beginning of God's work of order and beauty out of chaos and darkness. It also foreshadows the coming of Jesus, who is described as the light of the world in the New Testament. The first day of creation teaches us that God is the source of all light and life, and it reminds us of the power and goodness of God's creative work. On the second day of creation, God created the expanse or the sky to separate the waters below from the waters above. In the Bible, it says, "And God said, Let there be an expanse between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the expanse and separated the water under the expanse from the water above it. And it was so. It's important to note that in ancient Hebrew cosmology, the sky was seen as a solid dome that separated the waters above from the waters below. The waters above were thought to be the source of rain, snow, hail, and other forms of precipitation, while the waters below were the source of rivers, oceans, and springs. The creation of the sky on the second day of creation shows us that God is a master designer who has created everything with purpose and order. The separation of the waters above and below the expanse is a symbol of God's ability to bring order out of chaos. The second day of creation reminds us of God's power to sustain us and provide for us through the natural elements that He has created. It also teaches us to appreciate the beauty and diversity of the natural world and to be good stewards of the resources that God has given us. On the third day of creation, God continued to bring order and beauty to the world by creating dry land, plants, and trees. The Bible tells us that God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. Then, God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds." And it was so. The third day of creation shows us that God is a provider who sustains life through the natural elements of land and vegetation. The creation of dry land and the seas demonstrates God's power over the elements of the earth and His ability to bring forth life from seemingly barren places. Furthermore, the creation of plants and trees is a symbol of God's provision for humanity, providing food, medicine, and resources for shelter and clothing. The third day of creation reminds us to be grateful for the resources God has given us and to be good stewards of the earth. It also teaches us to trust in God's provision and to rely on Him for all of our needs.